Hello, beautiful. Hello, beautiful. Welcome to week 2 of how to create a relaxed home. I hope week 1 went well. This week we're going to be talking about how to create more self-love in your life. So this is so important, and wonder why it is so important. You are so precious, my friend. So I want you to just think about that very, very dearly. And with a lot of thought, you are so precious. What happens to everybody else in your family if you aren't coping at your absolute 110%? And what happens to your life if you aren't running on 110%? So you are very, very important. Just like they say when we're traveling on planes. Put on your own breathing device before you put on anybody else's, because how are you going to save anybody if you're not breathing properly? So it's very, very precious. I really want you to understand how important it is to have self-love in your life. And it's not a vain thing. A lot of us think of self-love as a very selfish thing, but it's really not. It really is so important. So Yoko Ono says, smile in the mirror and do that every morning and you'll start to see a big difference in your life. So it's incredible how we talk to ourselves. Often it's so harsh and so judgmental, and there's absolutely no way that we would speak to anybody else about this. I actually listened to an amazing podcast the other day about self-love, and I'll send you the link for it. I'll just write that down because it was really, really good. And he said a story about a lady who was just going back to dating and went out on her first date. And the man got up and said, "Oh no, this isn't for me. I'm leaving now." And she sat there at the restaurant and she rang a friend. And a friend said, "Well, yeah, fair enough. I don't blame you because, you've got fat thighs and you don't have much of a life and you probably have spinach in your teeth and, you don't have anything really interesting to say. No wonder he left." Now, if you're anything like me, I thought, oh my goodness, why, that's not a very nice friend. I wouldn't be speaking to her again. But he was just saying that is actually how we speak to ourselves. So if it's not okay that a friend speaks to us this way, and obviously it's not, why is it okay that we speak to ourselves this way? So the first thing I'd like you to do this week is to start recognizing what you say to yourself in your mind. And I'm encouraging you to put on an alarm, if you've got an alarm on your phone or if you can set yourself an alarm some other way. I actually encourage you to set it off for 5 times a day, all sorts of different times during the day, for 7 days. And each time it goes off, I want you to reflect on the thoughts that you were having at the time. And then I'd like you to get out the compact mirror that I've given you. And hopefully you can take that around with you all the time, no matter where you are. So every time your alarm goes off, you've always got it there. And I'd like you to look in the mirror and I'd like you to say, "I love you, I love you, I love you." And I really want you to look yourself in the eye and say this. So it's really, really important. So when we're thinking about the thoughts when our alarm goes off, I don't really want you to judge yourself too much. I just want you to acknowledge what thoughts are there, okay? Because we are on this transformational program. We are changing these things. So it doesn't actually matter what place we're up to now, because we know that we're going to improve. We know that we're going to change these thought patterns within you. So we need to speak nicely to ourselves. Now, if you're not speaking nicely to ourselves, you're absolutely not alone. We all do it, we all just have that running judgment in our heads. And often we're saying should. We should be doing this better. I should be a better mum, or I should be a better wife. So that word should is actually quite harsh and quite judgmental. So let's just have a little think about that. I'm trying to be kinder and treating ourselves with more respect, just as our friends would our loved ones. So let's try to be our own friend and our own loved one. So the first technique that I'm going to give you, I've given you an elastic band to pop around your wrist, and each time you have a negative thought, I want you to pick that band and just flick it against your wrist. Now I've got you soft bands, so hopefully this isn't too harsh, but it just gives us a really, really good physical jolt and makes us recognise how many negative thoughts we have during the day. So when we first start this, we might have hundreds of negative thoughts during the day. Well, hopefully not, but we may be. And then when we start to recognise this, after a week or so, we actually start having less negative thoughts. So it's a very powerful technique. Now I've given you a video on the power of words. I'd really like you to see that video and see how much words affect the water in the experiment, and understanding that most of our body is made up of water, and then we can see how the negative thoughts and the negative talk can create a really unhealthy situation in our own bodies. Even though we can't physically see inside the body, we actually can start physically feeling how yuck it can make us feel. Yeah, hopefully that will make more sense when you watch the movie. Okay, so there's no point in judging ourselves about any of this. We just need to get on with the work of creating self-love and the conversations inside our heads. So like I said before, it's not up ourselves, it's not vain, it's not holier than anyone. We're just recognizing that in order to be the best that we can be, we need to respect our bodies and our thoughts and our minds. So when we first start this method to change the way we feel about ourselves, we can come up with quite a lot of resistance. So this is actually quite useful. It might be a really good idea to journal about it in your journals, and just use this to work through some of the blocks that you're feeling, because we've all got different blocks, and that resistance can give us a really good insight into what blocks we need to overcome. Okay? So with the mirror technique, it can either stand in front of the mirror or use the compact mirror that I've given you, and while we're looking in our eyes, making eye contact with ourselves, say the following: I love you 3 times, and then we can actually extend that once we feel better. We can say I love you and put your name in there. Now you can write this in your journal so you can remember how to do it. And then give yourself some love and acceptance instead of judgment and resistance. And see how much space you can open up for yourself for real change. And that's the first part of that technique. Loving yourself because of it. And I recommend repeating this at least 5 times a day, like I said, and keeping it with real emotion, looking into your eyes, focusing on yourself. It's okay to cry. I've cried numerous times when I've been doing this technique. It's a good release. So repeating these statements in your head is sort of okay, but something really magical starts to happen when you actually say it out loud. And it's like making a contract with yourself. So saying the words out loud, looking into your eyes, it brings a much deeper connection with yourself. It's very powerful. So you can't just make it into a boring, repetitive statement like you would in your head. You might like to try it both ways and see how powerful it is. Just saying it in your head, looking in the mirror, or saying it out loud and looking in the mirror. So if you feel as though you want to extend this practice after a few days, you can add in some emotional words. So look into your eyes and say, I love you. Say if this was me, I'd say, I love you, Victoria. You are a happy woman. I love that about you. Or I love you, Victoria. You are a passionate woman. I love that about you. So there's so many different things that we can put in there. So just, yeah, you might like to do this in private, and that's why I gave you the mirror. Okay, for the magic to start to happen, you don't even need to believe this emotion. You don't need to be, really there. We just fake it till we make it. It could be something you're striving for. It's okay to feel a little bit weird. I certainly did when I first started doing this. And like I said, this is why I've given you a personal mirror, because you might like to find a very private place to do this when we first start. So as you know, our bodies are made up of cells that vibrate at different levels. So that's just the science behind our bodies and everything in our whole entire world. Everything is made up of a cell. It just vibrates at a different level. And this practice, it allows your inner vibration to increase. Now, due to the natural forces of our planets, and I won't go into them now because it's massive, your body will actually attract those who have the same high vibrations within them. And this is why I call it the magic. We can't see these vibrations, and sometimes it feels as though it's sort of a magical force happening within our body, but it's all very, very scientific. Now, just like we can't see gravity, we know it's there. This is how we can start to understand that we are having these vibrations within us and around us. So at first you might feel some resistance to this loving and accepting yourself. It might somehow feel wrong to do. That's okay, it's normal, it's absolutely okay. You could even add that to your list and say something like, I love myself for struggling with this exercise. I love myself for being this vulnerable. So just be patient with this process, my friend. You will be amazed at the change. You will also be very impressed with yourself, that you have the power to change how you feel and realize that you're in control. So, my friend, your time is very precious. So if your family are not used to you taking some time out for yourself, I suggest that you start small and build up. So I'm going to list a few things now that you might like to try and just see what sort of floats your boat. So we've got 5-minute exercises. You might like to take a walk or write down your daily gratitudes in your journal. Say no to something that you don't want to do. Tell a friend why you adore them. Turn some music up and have a dance. Stop saying you are not good enough. Write down things in your journal, maybe some beautiful pens. You might like to paint. You might like to paint your nails. You might like to write a letter or an email to a friend. Perhaps get a 5-minute massage. You might like to create your own love manifesto. You might like to expand your sexuality, to see what floats your boat. Turn off all connections to the outside world. Respect what your body needs. Maybe take a nap. Maybe make a green smoothie. Try not to say should. You might like to seek out a mentor, someone that you really admire. You might like to set a new goal. I've got some 1-minute and some 5-minute meditation relaxations. You can practice those. Or practice quick techniques to center and rebalance yourself, which I'll give you those too. 10-minute ideas. There's lots of 10-minute ideas there. Now I want you to go through them yourself because I'm just running out of time. And I want you to really think about which ones suit you the most. So just pause on the video, have a look through there. And here's your 1-hour ones, or for some more ideas. But the main thing that I'd like you to get out of this video is to have fun. What suits you may not suit everyone, and that is absolutely okay. In the next video, we're going to be discussing love languages, but until then, you're awesome, you're amazing, you're wonderful. At the end of yoga, we say namaste, which is, I honor the divine in you as it is in with me. Namaste, my friend.